It's a serene place of staggering beauty and appealing isolation. A spiritual remnant of old Southeast Asia, where Buddhism is revered. It's underdeveloped and it's poor. In overcrowded Asia, Laos is a rarity, relatively underpopulated with just 6 million people. But it has water, and lots of it.
Well, Mekong is, compared to other large river systems, still quite a healthy river. It's a river that runs free for the lower part of its length. It's a river that produces the largest freshwater fishery in the world of any river basin. But of course it's a river that's changing very quickly.
It's changing quickly because of people, money and power. An otherwise old-fashioned communist regime is in charge. That means journalists often have a tough time getting in, and if you do, you're shadowed, as we were, by a government minder. But there was little interference, and for 10 days we moved fairly freely, following the twists and turns of the Mekong from north to south. To see for ourselves how this Amazon of Asia will be profoundly transformed from a largely untamed force of nature into a huge humming powerhouse. The question is, at what cost?
It runs for almost 5,000 kilometres from the mountains of Tibet to Vietnam's Mekong Delta. This river is a highway providing transport, food and a way of life for more than 60 million people. Until now, it's been one of the world's last largely untouched wild rivers. But now there are plans for a series of dams along its tributaries and mainstream, and 55 of them are in Laos.
For a long time, Lao decision makers and many of those advising the Lao government have been sold on the idea that Laos is, to use some of the hyperbole, a new Kuwait to Southeast Asia, the new Switzerland of Southeast Asia, is going to get rich by selling power to its neighbours.
So far, dams haven't blocked the Mekong in Laos, but they're already scouring mountain valleys and altering watercourses. This reservoir just feels endless. In the wet season, and we're getting towards the end of it now, it swells to about 450 square kilometres. I'm travelling with one of the many internationals involved in developing Laos, Englishman Aidan Glendinning.
It's quite beautiful in a ghostly sort of way.
Beautiful about their trees.
The fast tinny is taking us to the Nam Turn 2 Dam, the biggest infrastructure project in the country. High on the Nakai Plateau, it's generating power for export by diverting water from one Mekong tributary to another.
So we just create the reservoir here, and we take the water off the other end of the plateau, drop it down 350 metres to the power station. That's where all of generation is done. In this project, we're on the dam wall here, but the power station is about 70 kilometres that way.
Without foreign companies and capital, it's unlikely Laos could get anything like this up and running. It's cost $1.5 billion and was funded by the World and Asian Development Banks, attracting investors like the ANZ Bank.
The capacity is 1,070 megawatts. 1,000 megawatts is exported to Thailand, and 70 megawatts is reserved for domestic use here in Laos.
And how much profit comes back into Laos from the dam?
Well, over the concession period, which is 25 years that the private operator runs the dam, it's about $80 million per year comes directly to the government in revenues, which will be, over that period, more than $2 billion.
Will the dam do more good than harm? It's too early to tell. The dam's operators have had to spend $100 million to monitor and improve water quality in the reservoir and the downstream river system. Australian Stephen Duthie runs the environmental program here.
As an environmental scientist, does it go against the grain for you to be altering a river system in this way?
Obviously, altering any natural ecosystem is something that one would like to avoid. If I were in Australia, I'd say this is something that I would be vehemently against. But when you look at the contribution that this project makes to Laos GDP, for the benefits that have come to the local community, and the fact that Laos has few natural resources to bring it out of poverty, one has to balance these conflicting issues.
It's a question thousands of Lao people are asking themselves as villages are uprooted and relocated, leaving traditionally subsistence communities to grapple with unfamiliar ways of life.
Most of these people have been moved for only 2 or 3 years, and there's no way that we can say it's a success, it's finished, for at least a few more years. So in terms of the livelihoods, making sure that the people can earn money from the land, that's where the real challenge lies. And it's going to take a long-term investment.
On the other side of the mountain, another dam company has given these people a brand new village, but it's far from their farms and animals, and from the river, where it was easy to catch fish. Now village meetings are about the higher cost of living and somehow developing new sources of income closer to home. Cham Pha and his neighbours had no say in the location of the new village. It was chosen by the government and the dam company.
So can you tell me about your house? You have power? You have the TV?
CD.
Cham Pha likes his connections to the modern world, but worries about an income. The food he used to grow or catch now has to be bought at the market.
Can we go? Anything?
Sompon Samalavong represents the dam company that's changing things along Cham Pha's part of the Mekong Basin. Turn Hinbun Dam has been operating on one of the tributaries for 12 years.
Some family, they are very big, 19 persons, 18 persons.
He believes life has changed for the better around here.
They have new house, they have electricity, free of charge for connections, and we build the line.
The overwhelming benefit, though, is money for a government not used to seeing much of it.
It's very high internal rate of return, very high profit project and very successful. The government can earn quite a lot of money. Every year we produce for around 62 million for revenue, and the 60% of the dividend is going to the government.
His company's now building another power plant next door, doubling revenue by doubling the amount of water through the turbines. And that means another 11 villages will be moved.
We do not deny that most of the Lao people, in particular those living in the country, still living under poverty line, having income less than $2 per day.
The government claims that hydropower is the quickest way to raise living standards. Laos has seen neighbouring economies explode and wants to do the same. It's aiming for 7% growth, selling electricity to its neighbours. China's provided some of the inspiration. It's already built 4 dams on the upper Mekong, and there'll be at least 4 more. That's changed the flow of the river, but it's the plans to build many dams on the lower stretches of the Mekong that's raising international concern. The Lao government has just told its neighbours, Thailand, Cambodia and Vietnam, that it intends building the first Mekong dam on its mainstream at Xayaburi. It's a test case, and it may well dictate the future of the river.
Vietnam is very keen to protect the delta, which is a highly productive, not only for agriculture and rice production, but also increasingly for fish production, and wants to avoid any reduction in water flows in the river, which could affect an increased salinity. Laos has significant plans for developing its hydropower potential, not just for the domestic market, but also to sell to its neighbours who have strong demand, and use that foreign exchange to fund some of its socio-economic development plans. So you can see that there are potential tensions there.
The Mekong River Commission, based in the capital, will spend 6 months analysing the Xayaburi Dam project. It has the politically sensitive job of trying to stop dams triggering environmental and social disasters and sparking conflicts. But its powers are limited.
The big uncertainty with all of these projects is the question of fish passage, and to what extent a barrier across the river would impact on wild fisheries, on capture fisheries.
Its role may be changing, but for all of human history, the Mekong has been the provider. 6-year-old Kamai and his father fish every day. Their existence flows with the rhythm of the river.
ลุ่มแม่น้ำนี้มีความสำคัญหลายเพราะว่าเฉพาะเฮานี่มันเคยอยู่น้ำยาเคยหาคุมหากินตามแม่น้ำคลองนี้บ่เคยเฮ็ดแนวอื่นซั่นซะเนาะเขาบ่มีบ่ครัวนึงจั่ว
Cham Pha and his son catch just enough fish to feed the family. Any left they sell, but population growth and industry mean the demands on the river are multiplying. Cham Pha says Mother Mekong's bounty is already dwindling.
10 ปีหลังนี่ซ้ำนี้ป้าเธอบัดกะโลงแหละผมแค่อันซื่อๆเลยงมไปตามนี้สิเดี๋ยวนี้บ่ได้มือได้ 3-4 ตัวปานใดมันเป็นแปลงคือเว้าเมื่อกี้แล้วมันไล่ขนซอกนี่แต่ก่อนนี้มันน้อยขนเดี๋ยวนี้มันไล่ขนพักก็มาซอกป่ามันเราบ่ได้
You can't overstate the importance of fish to people living in the Mekong Basin. The fish they catch or buy make up as much as 80% of their daily protein. This is the largest freshwater fishery in the world, and dams would interfere with the annual floods that make it so.
Most of the 1,200-odd Mekong fish species are migratory, and fish can't swim past dams.
Professor Phil Hirsch has spent decades working in Southeast Asia and runs the Australian Mekong Resource Centre at the University of Sydney.
Usually between mid-May and mid-June each year.
He's one outside expert here, opposed to dams on the lower Mekong mainstream.
The benefits that come from dams are highly concentrated. They come through the revenues from selling power, they come from tax revenues, and so it's an easy way to concentrate the economic benefits of the river. Whether or not those benefits are larger than those that are destroyed by the dams is another question.
Environmental activism is building. The World Wildlife Fund is lobbying all governments, campaigning against Mekong mainstream dams. 9 are planned for Laos alone, with more in Cambodia. The WWF says that fish species will be lost forever, even if only one dam goes ahead.
One of the flagship species for the Mekong River is the Mekong giant catfish. This is one of the largest freshwater fish in the world. It can reach up to 350 kilos in weight. And in our view, any dam that's created in that stretch of the river, including Sayabuli, will block the migration path of this species and therefore will herald its extinction in the wild because it won't be able to migrate upstream to spawn.
Is it possible that the giant Mekong catfish will die out if that dam goes ahead?
I think this is a strong risk for the upper part of the Mekong.
Is that an acceptable risk?
Well, that's a question for the countries to consider. I mean, it's a cultural issue. It has very high significance for populations here. But as I said, it's already under tremendous pressure. It has to be balanced against the benefits of hundreds of millions of dollars of potential revenues.
The Mekong is more than sustenance and money. It's a connection between people that even we can feel after 10 days following the river. Rejoining its course, we head south along with the morning commuters. Reminders of the enduring human history of the Mekong are rarely far away. On this stretch in Cham Pha, there are astonishing historic ruins that reflect the spiritual power of the river. The temple is called Wat Phu and dates from the 5th century. It's been a place of worship for the locals for 1,500 years because of its position on the mountain above the Mekong, the river they call Mother. Wat Phu perches at the junction of the mountains and the plain. Here the Mekong widens and then splays out into a series of channels, creating the Sipandon, or literally 4,000 islands, a spectacular haven for wildlife. It's here that the longest waterfall in Southeast Asia, which in full flood is 14 kilometres wide, spills over the border into Cambodia. It's a major tourist attraction, but it represents more than a good picture opportunity. At this time of year, it sends water hurtling south as far as Vietnam, part of a unique process that floods the lower reaches of the river, dumps rich silt on farmlands and provides nutrients for fish.
It's estimated that in terms of the dependency of both Laos and Cambodia on these fisheries, that any dam in that area would be the single most devastating impact and would bring about an immediate change in the ecology of the river.
Of all the planned dams on the Mekong, it's a proposed dam here on the Don Sahong Channel that's causing the most concern. Some predict that more than 40% of Cambodia's fish would be wiped out if this and other dams are built on the Mekong mainstream. In the dry season, this is the only channel through the islands that holds enough water to allow fish to swim upstream.
In that area, there are 1,000 islands, whereby 1,000 creeks. So Don Sahong is only one creek will be blocked.
Yeah,
by
but that's
the dam.
the only one the fish can get through, isn't it?
So the project as so designed, if that creek is closed, the fish may be able to swim up and down to other creeks. This is just the view of a non-fish expert.
There's another likely impact of a dam here. One of the world's most endangered marine mammals is at risk.
We're in southern Laos looking for the elusive Irrawaddy dolphin.
There are only around 100 left in the wild and about 14 here. They can be seen, but it's not easy.
The Irrawaddy dolphin is rare in the Mekong Basin. With so few left in the wild, travellers come from all over the world to this very place on the Laos-Cambodian border in the hope of spotting one. A dam nearby would certainly change their habitat and probably wipe them out. The potential dangers of the Don Sahong Dam and other dams are so extreme that the World Wildlife Fund wants a 10-year moratorium on all dam developments on the Mekong River.
We believe that would give ample opportunity for developers, governments, communities, NGOs to sit down and really discuss what innovative and alternative ways there are to generate the energy that's needed for this region, to ensure that Laos and Cambodia develop as many other Southeast Asian countries have, but do it in a way that's sustainable, that doesn't jeopardise the livelihoods of so many people and jeopardise what is arguably the most biodiverse river in Asia.
ปลาคาเนาะมันก็มีความสำคัญเพราะว่าแล้วแขกไปไทยมากก็ไปเบิ่งปลาคาจุดเดียวเพราะว่ามันเป็นป่าน้ำคลอง
Local village chief Kamon Panboon knows that his people and place will be changed forever if the Don Sahong Channel is dammed.
เป็นห่วงเป็นน้ำอยู่กับสิ่งแวดล้อมเนาะจักเสียจังไดก็บ่ติหาเพิ่นบ่ได้แล้วก็อยากสร้างสาบ้านเมืองให้รุ่งเรืองนี่แล้วดีใจอยู่ตัวนี้คันว่าเพิ่นมีกระแสไฟหรือว่าเพิ่นเฮ็ดได้ตัวจริงเนาะ
Laos wants to become the battery of Asia, and looking at the raw power of this river, the potential for development is obvious. But so is the chance of conflict between the countries who are the caretakers of the Mekong. An environmental catastrophe on any part of the river will have a flow-on effect to all the other Mekong communities. Only careful, sustainable development will preserve the mother of all rivers for the children of the future.
So, how much is too much for the Mekong? Zoe Daniel and the challenges of sustainable development in Southeast Asia. Well, that's the program for tonight. Don't forget to stay in touch with us on our website. We're on Facebook and Twitter as well. Until next time, good night.